Tony Khawam, welcome to our program.
Thank you, Mel.
We're going to be hearing more about Tony's bio in a minute. But first, I want to tell you a little bit about how we got started on this remarkable Syrian art. I direct an organization called Common Humanity. And what we try to do is bring together people in the States with people in the Middle East. And we try to build understanding, respect, and friendship between people here and people there. And art is one of the way we do it. And here in my studio, you'll see a visual representation of what we try to do. Behind me is my Amish Mennonite American heritage, a quilt my sister made for me, Amish quilt. And there to my other side are paintings from Iraq. And for the last 15 years, we've been exhibiting these paintings and people have loved them and bought some of them and bought some posters. And about 15 years ago, I got to know Tony. I think our friendship goes back 12, 13, 15 years.
Yes.
And Tony was always very encouraging. And thank you, Mel, for your work with this cause. And then about 3 years ago, I think it was, Tony said, you know, Mel, we appreciate the work you do with the Iraqi art. How about something with Syrian art? And it took me about half a nanosecond. I said, yes. I said, what a great idea. So we've been doing that for the last 2.5, 3 years, thinking about it. The first idea, which we're still doing, was to bring paintings here. And then along the way, I said, you know, how about a Christmas card exchange? 25 years ago, I did a Christmas card exchange with Baghdad, with a church in Baghdad. And 15 years ago, I did a Christmas card exchange with an old ancient church back to the days of the Middle Ages in Palestine. And so I'm all in favor of card exchanges. So let me share my screen and tell you a little bit about this, just a few minutes with my background, and then we're going to spend the bulk of our time with Tony. Here is a map of Syria, and here is where Tony and I went. We flew into Beirut. This is about almost 2 years ago now. This is in late November 2018. Tony and I flew together. We collected 893 cards, and we flew into Beirut and went overland to the entrance. And here we are in late November 2018, just about 2 years ago, at the Welcome to Syria. And I love this picture. There, if you look closely, you'll see Tony and I in the middle. I love Damascus, and that's true. I do love Damascus. I love all of Syria. And we're facing the Great Opera House, which is a great cultural icon of Damascus. I had the honor of being there about 15 years ago. We took our cards, and here we delivered them to a school in Damascus. And if there's anybody from my home in Kansas looking at this today, there's a card from Heston College. And these kids are all so happy to be getting cards from America. And then we traveled to Aleppo. We took some of our cards, we saved some of our cards to Aleppo. And here we are at a school in Aleppo. And if you look very closely there at the bottom right, you will see a young lady. These are cards that they made in Aleppo to send back. So each card that we took over said, to a friend in Syria, and they signed their names, John or Mary. And then these folks had cards ready, and when we gave them a card, they wrote the name on the card. It was really wonderful. And here this young lady has a card ready with an image of the Citadel. And here is a young lady next to her with some coins and some beautiful pop-out flowers. And we visited artists, which is what's Tony going to talk about in a moment. Here to our left is Nizar Sabur with a grand, beautiful, magnificent painting of Jesus on the cross. There are many Christians, very active and prominent Christians in Syria. If we have time, we'll talk about that. There to between us, and there I'm on the right, between us is another great artist, Bassem Dadou. Bassem Dadou and Nizar Sabor, both very prominent Syrian artists, and some others we met as well. Here is an artist we met. Her name is Reem Tarif. She is also a well-known painter, and before the war, this is the paintings that she painted, sort of pointillistic, impressionistic, just gorgeous, large canvases. And she told us that she listened to classical music as she was painting. That was, you're in your studio. Tony said he was there for 8 hours. She was there and listened to classical music, but then the bombs start dropping and she kept painting. The people of Syria carried on. She kept painting, and here's how her images changed. She painted with large explosions of bombs falling. I was very surprised at how close the bombing was to downtown Damascus. And this picture is of bloody underwear, blood-drenched underwear. What an image that these good artists had to go through. We also visited Aleppo, and here I am with Nimat Badawi. There are two brothers, Bashir and Nimat. And if you look at the bottom, look very closely at the bottom row, the paintings behind us, these are shards of wood from explosions. Now you recall in the news, these are people who lived through those terrible days in Aleppo. One of the things they did was took these pieces of wood, polished them just a little bit, and made pictures of Jesus. The one on the left, a little harder to see, but there's a very clear picture of Jesus. We brought these back and we had exhibits, and I organized exhibits in Wichita, Kansas, in Harrisonburg, Virginia, at my alma mater, Eastern Mennonite University, and right here in New York City. And this is a picture from the exhibit we had of our Syrian art, the various artists. This particular one is by Nizar Sabor, with some young ladies and me there taking a look at this really gorgeous picture. If you want to get in touch with us, commonhumanity.org. But let's spend the bulk of our time talking with Tony. Tony, welcome, as we said, and let me just say a word of introduction about Tony. Tony Khawam was born in Aleppo, Syria, and immigrated to the US with his family at age 16. He is a graduate from the School of Visual Arts in New York City and now lives and works in Florida. He was a frequent visitor to Aleppo and Damascus when he lived there, at the national museums that exposed him to the art of ancient civilizations that shaped his current artistic direction. He has been exhibited nationally in galleries and museums and is the recipient of various awards. Tony Khawam's work is included in museums, private and public collections throughout the US, Canada, Mexico, Europe, and the Middle East. Tony believes that the power of arts in the bringing of the community together to increase knowledge, build awareness, spark interest for cultural bridge building and understanding. Welcome, Tony. What a great way. I think I'm going to steal that line from you. It's so good. May I steal that line from you? It's
Absolutely. We share our ideas together, and definitely, anything that I can pick from your brain, I will definitely use it as well.
Yeah, well, they say the highest tribute is stealing the work of somebody else. So I'm going to steal that from you.
Not stealing, it's sharing.
Sharing, okay. Well, we're eager to see more of your work. And Tony, go ahead. I think you've got some great images to show us.
Okay, well, thank you so much. And I want to welcome the viewers. And I want to just give the viewers a sense of my work. And of course, you mentioned my background. My current work is really, it's about the community, about the cultural bridge building and understanding. Art connects us all, and everyone understands arts, regardless of their age, color, race, language. So art builds community and creates space for dialogue by bringing people together from various communities and expose them to the arts and culture while viewing artworks, tasting authentic food, and listening to classical music from different culture. Also, I believe in the social media that is increased during the pandemic. I believe in spreading the word through social media with different events on Zoom and Facebook live streaming to engage a larger audience. So this is just a little background of, in addition to being an artist, I became also a curator by finding out what happened to my friends, artists, whether they were living in Syria or they left back and lived back in Syria, or they never left Syria, or but I connected with them, and I realized that we all share the same values in the past 5 years, that we all change our subject and style because of the war in Syria. So even though I live here in America, I was listening to the news, I was talking to my relatives and friends in Syria and Aleppo, and I can hear the bombing in the background on the phone. I thought, let me put together an exhibition, curate an exhibition of these artists that we all share the same values. So I want to share with you the screen here on my computer. The different art exhibitions that Mel and I did, it changes depending, in other words, it changes on the size and the number of artists included. And it also depends on the place, the gallery space that we have to exhibit the artwork. So in this case, this is the largest full-scale exhibition so far, and it's the first time in America being shown. 45 works of art by 12 Syrian-American and Syrian artists. This is some of the pictures that Mel and I visited the artist studios, and we kind of felt so closely to what the artist's feeling and emotions. None of the art is political in nature. It's all about the artist, how the artist felt, and how the artist interpret the emotions and through expressions through their medium, which is an art medium. So the current exhibitions is in Art Serve in Miami, and we include these artists, and it will be on view until October 28th. And I introduced also several cultural events. And part of the cultural events, I thought, in addition to the artwork, I want the American people to understand the Syrian arts and culture fully, not just through visual means. So I introduced lectures about the Syrian arts and Syrian-American community in America and their contributions to the American fabric in the United States, which dates back to 1880. Not too many people know that, and the media doesn't talk about that. But we have deep roots, just like the Italians, the Dutch, the Germans here in the United States. I introduced also film screening of the Arab Americans, which shows also different characters in America from Syrian Lebanese descent that they contributed big time to the American fabric. And also introduced Middle Eastern melodies and music, poetry, the classical poetry and music of the Middle East, which is Muwashshahat Andalusia from Spain and Qudud Halabiya. Halabiya means from Aleppo. Aleppo is well known in the Arab world. It's the base of Middle Eastern classical music and still is passed on from one generation to another. And then I introduced also Middle Eastern culinary cuisine, talks and recipe, and how the Syrian Lebanese cuisine brings families together, not only with dinners, it's also when they make the food, when they prepare the food. So it's a really social event, and it's the love and the care, and it brings people together. So those are the qualities that I wanted to share with the American public. So these are the various events that we just concluded this week, actually, all these 4 events. And I hope that we carry these events into every year through the American Days of Middle Eastern Arts and Culture, which is a great way for the Middle Eastern and non-Middle Eastern communities all over the US can experience the arts and culture of the Middle East. This is some images of the current exhibition. So it's, like I said, it's a full-scale exhibition, partially sponsored by ArtServe, Broward County Division of Culture, Florida State and the Culture Division of Florida. And also there's a station, which is a PNR station in Miami. And of course, I'm showing here a number of artwork here. Nizar Sabur is one of the top professors in Damascus University, on top right here. And also below that is Bassem Dahdouh, is another top professor of art in Damascus University as well. So these are really accomplished artists. These are not just, you know, average artists. They've been as artists for over 25 years, and they've been teaching for over 20 years. Another good professors are Manhal Isa on the left side. And as you can see, Manhal Isa paintings shows the Qasim Mountain, which is on the right here, and the city of Damascus right below the Qasim Mountain. And what Manhal introduced is something new in visual art. He introduced tracks, tire tracks. And what he wanted to show is how these tire tracks are overrunning his city, and how people behavior changed. So overrunning people, overrunning the city, overrunning culture. The painting on the left side here is Ma'lula, and Ma'lula is the first Christian city in Syria, along with Antioch. So that's where dates back to 2,000 years. So when extremists enter Ma'lula, they ransack the icons and any cultural heritage, and many of these are UNESCO, World Heritage Sites. So these tracks are really good representation of his emotions and expressions. On the right side here, Edward Shahda, another professor, he's using a very symbolic way, but showing human in different faces, human changes, death, the angel death here, angel of death, and then the Last Supper. And none of these are religious, but these artists are using some of the religious icons to showcase how people changed. Pretty much these heads are different heads. Some of them animals, some of them are distorted and twisted. They're all betraying each other. It's just showing how Syria and the Syrian people, whether from within or whether from outside, it was betrayed and it overran basically. And the people are suffering. On the bottom is my paintings. I focus on urban landscapes, and I used to paint before New York urban landscapes, in New York urban and industrial landscapes in kind of abstract architectural forms. But 5 years ago, I decided to switch the subject to Aleppo urban landscapes. And I wanted to show the streets, the buildings, and the neighborhoods. They're all ransacked, they're all destroyed. Even though they are destroyed, I wanted to introduce color to the paintings to make it hopeful. So there's a lot of color, a lot of emotion, a lot of human-made objects scattered all over the streets. And I walked in those streets, and I know these buildings, some of the neighborhoods. I remember when I was a child, I used to walk there. Here on the left side, some aerial views of Aleppo, and it shows pretty much in a very expressionist way the city, and the city in the background being bombed and burned with smokestacks coming out of the horizons.
Tony, maybe we could take a moment to see the painting behind you. Could I suggest we stop screen share for a second? And we're seeing a great view of the painting right there behind you with your paintbrushes. Could you tell us a little bit about the painting that's right there behind you?
Yes. So this painting here is one of those paintings that I just showed you, but it's not included in the exhibit. I have it still in my studio. And this shows basically one of the streets in Aleppo, and all the man-made objects, all the basically they're supposed to be in the buildings, but now they are in the streets due to the bombing and the collapsed buildings. But again, I wanted to show some hope, so I added color. I added bright sky, yellow, orange, all kind of color to make it hopeful. There is another day. That's where I feel that despite all this destructions, the human spirit will survive, and there's another day.
And how did you feel when you were in Aleppo? Would you be comfortable sharing with us a little bit about that? Must have been a difficult time. You grew up there. You left at age 18. So this was your family, your school, your church,
Yes.
your friends, and suddenly we hear these terrible stories in the news. How did it make you feel about going back to where you grew up?
Well, it's not easy. It's just like any person who feels if member of his family, her family are feeling pain, whether your mother or your father, your brother or your sister. This is how I felt about my homeland. Mm-hmm. They are all brothers and sisters to me, and the neighborhoods are my neighborhoods. I grew up there. I walked to school every morning through these neighborhoods. Some of them are destroyed, some of them are not destroyed, but there's heavy damage on many of the buildings, and other areas are less damaged. So you have a combination of all. The city of Aleppo is pretty much half of the city was destroyed or heavily damaged. The other half is there are damages everywhere, but not as heavy as the other half of the city, which is you have Aleppo is East Aleppo and West Aleppo, and both sides were affected, but East Aleppo more. It was pretty much demolished, completely gone, collapsed. Many of these buildings that I'm showing in my paintings are primarily from East Aleppo.
Sorry to have cut you off there. We're approaching the end of our half hour. Were there any other screen shares that you wanted to show us? Did we get through those? We can certainly go back and finish up there.
No, that's it. I mean, this is it.
Yeah. Well, I would like to, before we finish up, we have a tradition on our Middle East Common Humanity Peace channel to ask everyone this one simple question. What can we do for peace? We have wars all around the world. People are dying. What is something that you can do, that I can do, that our viewers can do for peace?
Well, what we could do is we have to build awareness. We have to get together and build awareness. And to me, I see arts and culture is the best way to communicate with people. People don't want to hear political views or any hatred ideas, or we want to stick to humanity. How we can connect with humanity is through arts and culture, because everybody understand that.
Well, thank you for being with us, Tony. A few things as we wrap up. These paintings are for sale, are they not, Tony?
Yes.
How would folks get in touch with you if they're interested in more about your work and about the possibility of knowing more about these paintings and even purchase? Christmas is not that far away. And how about a very unusual Christmas gift to give a piece of art? How would they get in touch with you?
Well, there's two ways: the current exhibition and me as an artist. As an artist, I have you can contact me on khawamgallery.com. And for the current exhibition artwork, you can contact artserve.org until October 28th.
And if you go to commonhumanity.org, I will be most happy to put you in touch with Tony if you didn't have your pencil ready. commonhumanity.org. Very simple point. We have some posters that are on sale for our Iraqi artists as a way to support them. We have some paintings for sale. The paintings behind me are for sale. Again, these are small and affordable. It shows a great support to the artist. And we are getting ready to do some very interesting things for Christmas. We can't quite announce that yet, but stay tuned. We are going to do some interesting things for Christmas. Tony, thank you so much. You're a great artist, and I'm so happy to have you as a friend for 15 years, and I look forward to many, many more years. Best of wishes with your exhibit. Again, you want to spell out Khawam, maybe you spell it out.
It's Khawam, Khawam, gallery.com.
And it's commonhumanity.org.
Yes.
Thank you, Tony. Great to have you as a friend.
So
Best wishes. We'll see you folks next time. We're going to continue this through the winter, so come back next week, same Zoom login. Thank you, Tony. Have a great rest of the day.
You too.